Hello, true art believers, and welcome to today's live art stream. This is Pierson. I am the #1 live art streamer in the world. Yes, sir. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're doing well, and you are watching day 234 of 300 days of drawing. And we gotta get drawing. We gotta get started. We gotta get this started. Let's talk about a little bit. Today we're gonna kind of run through basic shapes you can kind of use to create the torso of the human figure. I am doing this as a personal endeavor to improve my figure drawing skills. I'm a little bit weak. I haven't done it for so long that I've gone from pretty advanced to I would say like a beginner almost. So this is going to be a re-education experience for me, and also you will learn something along the way. And as I become more informed and kind of re-grasp some of those initial ideas that I was accustomed to, I'll be able to provide better examples and demonstrations in the future. Hopefully you enjoy today's live art stream. Let's begin. All right. Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well today. So what we're going to be doing is going to be moving this little thing out of the way here. Is we're just going to be doing some studies here. We're just going to be doing some studies. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to kind of do some warm-ups here. We're just going to do like a bunch of scribbles here. Let's do some scribbles, 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 scribble. Maybe do some circles here, circle, 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 circle. So I'm warming up, trying to get my hand-eye coordination kind of in sync. So I'm just doing some circles here. Now, I know this sounds silly, but like it's just the thing that you got to do. Just kind of got to do it and just kind of accept it. Now, another way would be another example of this would be like if you are doing like figurative work or like drawing things, you would just start out by sketching the thing over and over again. And so I'm just going to kind of get warmed up here. And then eventually I'll be able to kind of discuss things. All right, let's do this. More circles, circle, 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 circle. Maybe do some small circles, large circles. One thing that's nice about digital work is the footprint. Like you're not having like to use paper. Although I actually think paper is more green than we are giving it credit, because if we look at the electronics that is used to create these tools, they're atrocious on the environment. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think my circles are starting to get a little bit better. Okay. I'm a little bit nervous, right? I'm a little bit nervous. That one's a little bit pretty good. That one's okay. That one's okay. 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 Now you're wondering why I'm doing circles. It's simply just kind of get myself into the drawing mood, really, and to kind of get some of that bad hand-eye coordination, right? We're just kind of getting that out of the way, removing it, and so forth. You know those people that do those circles, those like they're able to do a like perfect circle in one swipe. This is the same instance, but only we're not focused on doing one perfect circle, one specific circle. We're working on just being able to do a variety of circles. When those people that do those challenges, they're focused on doing one specifically good circle. I am not focusing on that. So now that we kind of warmed up here, what we want to talk about is we want to talk about simple little structures we can do to create the human torso. Now, the reason why I was doing circles is because it applies to this, and also it won't apply right now, but it will apply to this in the future or for as I go further along on the process. So now I want everyone to know, like let's just think of the torso, or like the chest abdomen and the hips. We're going to break it down into two sections. Right? Our body, or at least the torso area, and that would basically be your torso, which you could say is just the rib cage, and um, the pelvis area. So you have the torso and the rib cage, the pelvis, which is also your hips. It's the second part. And what you do, the reason why we want to break it down into sections is you want to be able to create a kind of like a scaffolding, or a block like formation. So like what you would do if you're first starting out with drawing the figure, and if you don't the torso specifically, and you don't know what you need to do, a good rule of thumb, or a good tool that people do when they're first starting out, is they want to find like the angle of the torso. So like the angle of the torso is doing this, pointing this way, or just pointing straight down. You would start out by just creating a like a rectangle. So you want to have a rectangle, which is going to be a symbol, or a representation of the rib cage, right? And then you want to have pretty much a square, or like a more squashed version of a rectangle, right? So it could be a square, it could be kind of like a square object, or kind of like a more squashed version of the rectangle for the hips slash pelvis, right? And so, like, let's say that you had your torso is moving an angle like this. So it's doing like this. It's making an angle this way, and then it's pivoting this way. So what you would do is you basically you kind of stack two blocks on top of each other, right, for your torso, right? And this is where your torso is basically making a directional quality here, right? You can kind of make it a little bit more elaborate. Maybe you want to add some, I don't know what you want to, like that, like pinch fold that people have there, and then it stretches, right? So think of it like that when you're working with the torso, in the most basic of sense, right? So you want to think about it as a rectangle, right? A rectangle and a block shape underneath it, or another smaller rectangle, and that would account for the hips. And this is where you can kind of add your legs and so forth from there. I'm not really defining these legs. These are very simple legs. So I'm not really going. They're secondary, right? Okay. So that's what you want to start considering when you're doing your figurative work. Another way, so let's just play around with doing blocks here. So we're going to add some blocks, kind of play some shapes here. Just going to have a static block right here, another static block can be used as the hips. Now, what you can do, what another thing that people do sometimes, this is not the way, this is just another way that other artists kind of create the figure, is they'll add like a more of a angled like shape block, right? And then they'd stack that on top of another rectangular shape like this. And what this is for, this is supposed to kind of signify of a female character. For a male, you'd have like just two standard blocks, and then for like a female, you'd have a rectangular shape like this to kind of signify hips, right? Kind of signify hips and so forth. Kind of signify hips with your drawing, right? So that's what you could do for a female character or female figure if you're working in that regard, right? And so, you know, you can play, let's say you have a figure kind of zig and zagging like this. What you do is you just, you know, you just kind of take that rectangular shape right here, and then have that person's hips pivot this way, like this, and so forth. Or if you have the figure going this way, you know, you can have the blocks go and follow suit, like so. Right? I know this is very simple, like ideas of thinking of the figure, but it's just a way to kind of start constructing your figure, you know? So let's move on a little bit more. Another way is you want to start thinking with utilizing just the rectangular block method. What you could do is you could still take that mentality of using blocks and make them a little bit more elaborate. So this is going to be a profile view. So that's going to be looking from the side. And what I'm going to do to kind of express the angle of the hips or the pelvis is you're going to basically make a blocky looking Pac-Man, right? A little Pac-Man right there, and it's going to go ma 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 ma, right? So you're making a blocky Pac-Man. And what this is supposed to signify is it's supposed to signify like the angle of your back. So your back kind of moves. It's kind of curved like this, and then you got your buttocks right there. And so this is supposed to signify the angle of your back, and then so forth. And having your block shape pivot downward is supposed to kind of simulate the pelvis area, which is essentially it is like a sliced off. It does angle downward. All right. So that's just another way of thinking about your figure. Um, and so I'm doing this so I can kind of establish a kind of a scaffolding or a back like a kind of like an idea or kind of to kind of discuss these ideas a little bit further. All right. So now let's think of this more three-dimensionally. Let's think of your blocks as more three-dimensional. So let's just do a little quick crash course on perspective, just right quick. Um, we're going to do a block that's in 2-point perspective. That means you have a point right here and a point right here. And you do your vertical line, and the line goes to this point right here, and it goes to this point, and then this, and then it goes to this point right here. Obviously, it's not going to be that messed up, and so forth. So this point's going to go right here. I'm off quite a bit, and yeah, no, that's a bad example of 2-point perspective. But I just want to talk about that briefly before I kind of create these blocks into perspective. So let's treat these blocks into more of a three-dimensional form here so that you can kind of see how they can be portrayed as a figurative, like in more of like a figurative sense. So this block is going to represent like the torso. I'm exaggerating it. I'm actually making it more of a V shape. And then this block is going to be your basically your hips kind of tilted downward, right? And what that would kind of look like if you were to draw your hips, if you're going to make your hips kind of, I haven't done this in a while, but some people do it's been a while, a kind of like a kind of a specific type of shape to kind of signify the hip area with a it's been a while. It's been a while since I talked about perspective, like the figure in the sense. But you basically take this and you're going to kind of convert it to basically it kind of looks like a taco. Some people do it. Some people do this. I saw like someone was doing something like this. They have a shape like this. It looks like a U, you know, a U that you've kind of cut out a form. out of, right? This is one way that people can kind of address the hip-like structure in their drawing. You know, there is no right way or wrong way on how you approach this. There's just different ways of thinking about your figurative works, right? You can put your little hips here, or your legs. I think this is the great trochanter. I don't remember. Like, something like that. Looks like a robot. Anyways, so that's another type of way. So let's just do another one where I'm going to get kind of warmed up here and kind of do a torso again in that sense. Kind of like this, just to kind of get used to it. And I think I need to do something like that where I'm not gonna pivot that block so much down. It's just too weird, um, and so forth. I don't think so. There you go. That's a way to kind of start thinking about the structure as blocks. And then if you want to get more elaborate, you can add a little bitty area right here to kind of signify like this a like spine. So like you could essentially take your block here, put like a little bitty spring, essentially, make a little spring, and attach it to another block. And then that could act as a spine, right, that you can move back and forth onto the rib cage, or onto this rib cage like structure that you're making here. And that's another way of kind of thinking about it, right? Okay, let's see if I can get to this one. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So now that we kind of talked about torso as like square blocky forms, another way that we can look at it, and a lot of people like doing this because I find this works really well for the female figure. Then again, I'm not really good at this, so I can't really vouch for it, but a lot of like artists do this because it just really melds well with it. And so a lot of artists will use like ovally shapes for like the female figure. I'm not really a fan of it because I'm not really good at it. So they'll like add like an oval shape, and then they'll add like another like shape right here, and that's supposed to kind of simulate the curves of a. I'm kind of scratchy right now. It's supposed to simulate the curves of, yeah. Anyways, a female, that's not that good. But what I want to do is I wanted to get into doing I'll talk about that when I get a little bit more experienced in that type of field of drawing. Okay, so now here's where the oval and circle forms that I was kind of practicing in the more early on kind of help. Hopefully I haven't worn those off. So we're going to kind of draw an oval like shape here, right? And this oval shape is supposed to kind of signify the rib cage, okay? And then what you want to do is you can do another like, again, some people do another oval shape, just like an egg-like shape for the hips. It could also, some people will do the oval shape with some people do an oval shape with a box-like shape on the bottom, like this, to signify the hips. Sometimes it will be more of that inverted triangular shape to signify even more of a exaggeration of the hips. This is all based on preference. There's not like a right or wrong way to go about it. There's just ways to kind of pursue the figure. Everyone, when they're doing these live streams or doing these videos, they always say, this is the way And really, there's like strategies that you can kind of put into your own and integrate into your own work and see if it makes it if it works for you. Some of these things that I see other people doing and I try doing, I'm like, this feels weird. I'll keep practicing what they're doing simply because it's good to kind of draw in another person's voice, but I don't see I'm going to be able to apply it to the way that I kind of think with my work. So the egg shape, you want to treat the egg shape like your like it's so now that you have the egg shape, you want to basically imagine doing that egg shape like let's do it like this. We're gonna do it kind of like this. So this kind of reminds me of like candy corn, right? Like a candy corn. You know that shape of the candy corn right there? I think that's how it kind of looks like that. I don't know. But kind of reminds me of candy corn. And I think this works a little bit better because everyone says they do an egg shape, but every time I see someone do an egg shape, it's always more like a circle or an oval. I really think doing something that's kind of like this feels a little bit more natural. So what you want to do with this candy corn or egg-like shape that you made is now come on, what's happening here? There we go. You want to basically lop off. You want to cut off a top section off, and you want to cut this section off right here, right? So you're just going to cut this off like that, and you're going to separate that form off, and you're going to separate this form off like that. And what that's going to do is it's going to basically, let's see, get my pen back here. It's going to make, I'm gonna try doing a few things I don't normally do, which is let's see, how do you copy something? Control C, okay, Control C, Control C, Control V, right? And take the V. Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to create your your rib cage like structure like so, and then you can have your torso kind of like there and such. So it creates your rib like structure. So let's do it again here. So let's say that you're going to keep, there we go, right on this, right here, you're going to lop off another section like before, just like before, right? Right here, you're going to lop this section off, and you're going to lop this section off. And so this essentially is going to signify where your head goes in, and this is basically going to kind of create the shape of your torso and your rib, your rib-like structures that, without actually having to draw the ribs. So that's what's going to happen there. And then this kind of creates that shape of the ribs, not necessarily, but close enough. It's just a guideline. It's not a a definitive rule, right? So in the end, what you would have is you would have something like this. Oops. Right. What would happen is you would have something like this, where you'd have in your torso, you would have your area where the neck goes, And then you'd have your kind of like your shape for your torso, kind of doing its torso thing. Then that's where your spine kind of goes in. So basically now you're starting to have more of a torso-like structure made from that. So it ends up looking kind of like this. If you were to kind of do it again by itself. So notice how I did soften these edges up a little bit. And now you have what essentially looks, it kind of looks like lungs, really, right? So let's go ahead and kind of remove some of this stuff here. Layer, oh, okay. So let's do that again, and let's go and draw here and talk about how this kind of looks. So you can take this same structure and then you can kind of cut this off, right? Like that. So remember what I was saying is you were kind of cutting that front part of that section off right here, like that, and you were cutting that small little area off of the top area right there. And this is basically where you put your neck, right? You put your neck for the body, right? The head. And then this is technically the area. This would be like the area that the abs would go. Your abdominal muscles would kind of go doing their abdominal thing, right? Get your six pack on, right? And so forth. But that's how you would structure your torso in that sense. So this is just a different way. It's a different way of thinking about how to draw the torso. Again, I'm doing this for myself to kind of the more I can talk about it, the more I understand it. The more I understand it, the better I'll be able to draw it and so forth. And it's also a way for me just kind of to kind of do something that I kind of like doing. I kind of like teaching a little bit. I'm not great at it, so it's nice to kind of talk about it. And the way you get better is you talk about it. So now you can just kind of take this, and as I said, some people will use like a block form for the like the hip area, right? They can use a block form, doesn't matter. Some people use an oval form, you know. There's lots of ways. There's also, I've seen in some instances, some people use like a what essentially look like wheels on like an axle. So what they would do is they'd make for the hips, they'd make like wheels, right? On an axle kind of thing to kind of signify. I'm not experienced at doing this, so this is kind of just as purely just demonstration. But like people use that for wheels on an axle, and then in there people put their femurs and stuff. So they treat them like almost like they're action figures, you know. And then you can go so far as from the spine, you can start cutting out areas where your arms can kind of move into place. Put some strong trapezius muscles there, maybe. We're just going to give him like generic, unreally structured arms, deltoid, pec, and so forth. And then we're going to give him monstrous, like these monster, like this. We're just going to give him like these like unruly forearms, and then probably give him longer than average. You give him like something like this, like So that's it. That's it for the day. I just wanted to talk about and talk about the torso in in a more of a structure sense. And the reason why I'm doing it is I want to kind of talk about these things. Uh, well, we're going to talk about them in just to talk about them, really. Right? Yeah, talk about them and so forth. But I hope you learned a little bit. Hope this kind of shed some insight. We're going to put my little signature here. I got a lot of things kind of going on here. I might have to spend some time afterwards. Um, I might be putting these in my blog or something, um, and making them into small little section on the page, or make them in entire sections. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's it. That's it for the day. Let's see all these layers that are everywhere. Okay. And so we're going to put, for the day, we're going to put P21. And this is day 234. I have my calendar behind me. Out of 300. So that's some of my insight on how to draw the figure. Again, I'm not an expert. Actually, there's people that know a lot less than me and are much better than me. And then again, on the other side, people know a lot more than me and are a lot better than me. So like I'm like in between. I don't even know. Like it's crazy. Anyways, I hope you enjoy what I had to say about the human torso. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be arms again. I think I'm going to go into detail about the arms. I'm going to be researching how to draw arms again, and kind of going backtracking and seeing different ways of drawing the arms and trying to apply them in my own work, or try to apply them in these studies. And then eventually, what I want to do is, once I have enough, like get better at this, I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I think this is a little bit more enjoyable than struggling to draw clouds. So I do draw clouds on my off time, but I don't want to kind of mess up so much as I am as usual. Don't want to mess up as much doing live streams, as I can do this a lot better. At least I think so. I might be fooling myself. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's live art stream. I am the #1 live art streamer in the world. This is Pierson. We learned a little bit about how to structure the torso, kind of, sort of, and a little bit of ways of kind of thinking about it in a different manner. Well, that is it for the day. I got to get going. Pierson out. Cheers.